on or light off?
Off is good. Either one is fine. Yeah. I just wanted to take a moment as we get started. This is being recorded and will be posted on the OU's website at ou.org, and we can have the link archived and kept for posterity. It's a unique opportunity for me to have the opportunity to say thank you to my Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Nissel, Shlita, who's been critical and pivotal in many aspects of my own growth, having given me direct access to Rav Moshe Shapiro once and a long time ago in his car to ask some personal shilas, and along the way to tap into Rabbi Nissel directly, who is hooked into such a beautiful Masorah, and the Eitzah Tova that I have gotten over the years has impacted myself and my family in unimaginable ways. So a direct degree of Hakaras Tov to Rebbe, Miksa Shvacha Befanov, and I'd like to ask Rabbi Nissel to give a shiur on parenting today to help us get ready for the Pesach holiday. Rabbi Nissel, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reb Phil, for that kind introduction. It's funny because Mixas Shlach Lefanov, I was going to say the following about you. It's kind of crazy. For some reason, HaKadosh Baruch Hu arranges it that when there's a crisis, he gives us the right leadership at the right time. So it's just, thank God, organizations like the OU have just basically, stepped to the front, and they are doing leadership. And thank God they have people like Rabbi Phil Karish, who sits there in Chicago, but his wings are spread out to the four corners of the world, all the way to here from my little bunker here in Har Nof in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKadosh. So I want to thank you, Reb Phil, for everything that you're doing on behalf of Klal Yisrael, especially through these very, very, very difficult times. I also want to thank the OU and their extraordinary educational team for doing what they're doing. They should continue going, Michael El-Chayel. Hashem should give them bracha in everything that they're doing, and in particular in Hafatzas Torah, in giving us a Torah insight in how we should be navigating these extraordinary times. So there's no question that this Seder night, when we ask the question, why is this night different from all other nights, that there's a little bit of extra drama involved over here. This is not a regular Seder night. Full disclosure, the Nissels were supposed to be in Barcelona, and I was just over a month ago. My 18-year-old son, who is a little bit of a soccer fan, European soccer fan, I was checking out, and maybe we could go and see in Barcelona, play a game or something like that. That's where my mind was just over a month ago. Suddenly, my brain has switched to this like Uber, Mashiach is coming excitement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has engineered this in such an extraordinary way. This Shabbos HaGadol was exactly the same date as the original Shabbos HaGadol. Once again, we're all going to be in our homes. That scene that I saw last year, and every so often when we've been on Pesach programs, where the whole atmosphere of a Pesach program is not similar to the way it was at the original Seder night, where everybody had to be inside at their home. I mean, just picture it. Outside, there was a plague, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, tonight, the Jewish people are going to be born. Unlike the last 9 Makkos, if you want to survive the Makkah of blood, all you have to do is be Jewish. If you want to survive the Makkah of Choshech, all you have to be is Jewish. But if you want to survive the Makkah of Makkah B'chiris, the Mashchis, the plague, you have to be in a Jewish home. That's the way it has to be. Well, guess what? We're all going to be in our Jewish homes. We're all going to be in that nuclear home with ourselves and our immediate families, whether you're listening in New York or in Chicago or in LA or in London, Manchester, or in Johannesburg or Montreal. It doesn't make any difference. We're going to be inside our homes with our families, recreating the coming out of Egypt once again. So we don't know what this Seder is going to be like. We don't know what it's going to look like in retrospect in history. We don't know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in hold for us. We just know that we're in his good hands, and we know that his love for every single one of us is infinite, and Kadosh Baruch Hu is looking out for our best interests in the most deepest and most powerful way possible. Could be in a month's time, things will go back, chas v'shalom, back to normal. I say chas v'shalom because we're hoping that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to lead this world into the final closing of Olam Hazeh, the way we know it, and introduce the Mashiach era, where everything will be beyond beautiful, where everything is going to be the way Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted this world to be. Everything's going to be literally a Gan Eden, and Mashiach is going to introduce that tkufa for us. It is something that we believe with a complete belief, but we don't know when it will happen. We just know that it will happen. Are the stars aligned? Absolutely. Did people like Rav Dessler just 60, 70 years ago, did they predict that before Mashiach comes, there'll be a plague based on Midrashim? Absolutely. There are so many things that are fitting in right now. But will it end that way? We do not know. What we do know with total clarity is that these are extraordinary times. Hashem could equally, this time next month, create a worst case scenario. It could be that before we know it, the world will be plunged into some kind of a darkness that we haven't seen since some kind of a noxious mix of the Black Plague in Europe and the Depression in America in the 1920s. God forbid that should not happen. But we just do not know. What we do know with complete and absolute clarity is that this Wednesday night, this Seder night, is going to be an opportunity for us. And the Holy Sfarim tell us that Seder night, amongst the many nights that it is called the night of Emunah, it is called the night of freedom, the night of Chiras, but it's also called the night of Chinuch, the night of education. It is the night where we literally pass over everything we stand for onto the next generation. It has this uniqueness about it. The Arizal said that the night of Seder night, every single second is so precious that it has, so to speak, it is turbocharged with Kedusha. Nothing compares to Seder night in the Jewish calendar, except for three other possibilities. One is Yom Kippur, the other is the moment when the shofar is blown on Rosh Hashanah, and the third is when you hear Matan Torah on Shavuos morning. But Seder night is the only time where at night we are entering into this world called His Erusa de La'ela. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us opportunities where with a small amount of effort we can achieve extreme spiritual growth. The Kleisenberger Rebbe used to quote his great-grandfather. He said, I can't understand how Yidden cannot get Ruach HaKodesh on a night like that. It's like it's there for you to grab. It's like a fresh apple off a tree. You can get Ruach HaKodesh on the night. So the opportunities are there. The opportunities this year is more than ever because we are so incredibly focused. But now it's up to us, the parents, to get it right. We have to grab this opportunity. We have an opportunity to give over chinuch to our children that we probably have never had in a lifetime. Let's get this right. Let's make sure that this Seder night is a night where we plant into our children's soul the real purity of chinuch, in the purity of our own home, the way it was on the original 15th of Nisan in the year 2448. How are we going to do this? I'm going to share with you now just a few of my own ideas. Obviously, each one of you has a unique home. Each one of you has a unique situation. Each one of you has different types of guests. But what I'm going to give you now is a framework of how to present the evening in a way that is powerful. And by the time it's over, not only will your neshama feel elevated, but Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, you will have known that you have passed that elevation onto the next generation. So I'm going to give you over 4 ideas for Seder night. Why the number 4? Because everything on Seder night comes down to the number 4. The number 4 is a precious number for Seder night. It's not our discussion today. You can look at the Maharal of Prague that talks about why everything breaks down into the number 4, dafka on Seder night. But to fit in, I'm going to give over 4 ideas of chinuch that we can learn from Seder night. The very first thing is that Seder night forces us to answer the following question. What do I stand for? Or really, what do we, in other words, my spouse and myself, the marriage that I have built for myself, what do we stand for? The Rambam is found in its, hold on, 1 second please. Mitzvah Kuf Nun Zayin, Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Rambam brings over the mitzvahs Asay D'Oraisa, mitzvah 157. The mitzvah D'Oraisa, it is one of the 2 Torah mitzvahs of the night. The other one is, of course, eating matzah. And the matzah is, the mitzvah is, that was a Freudian slip. The mitzvah is to pass over what we believe in, Jewish ideas, Jewish principles. So it is the only mitzvah, says the Rambam, where the essential nature of the mitzvah needs 2 generations. In other words, technically speaking, you could say the same with Bris Milah, but it's not the way the Rambam frames it. The Rambam talks about Bris Milah as the father's mitzvah. Here he talks about the mitzvah as the 2-generational framework. It is the interaction between one generation and the next generation. The truth of the matter is, the Rambam says the essential nature is to figure out the fundamentals of what we're all about. And therefore, if you do not have children at your Seder, so therefore you tell over the story to yourself. You become the original generation and you become the next generation in your own essence, because the mitzvah has to be given over. So you can give it over to yourself. How do you give this mitzvah? So the very first thing is that the next couple of days happens to be the busiest days of the Jewish calendar, especially if you haven't made Pesach before, so it's all a little crazy for you. But you need to find time out with your spouse and speak to him or her. How are we going to run this Seder night? How are we going to make this Seder night different? Both parents have to be a team in making sure they're doing the job, even though the person, so to speak, who's in the driver's seat is the father, but the mother is an equal partner. You shouldn't be sitting there thinking about the food and thinking about the technical part of the Seder night. This mitzvah is for you, mama, as well. You and your husband are giving over to your children what you stand for and what you believe in. So maybe you should take time out with all the craziness that's going on and ask yourself, so what exactly are our hashkafas? Sometimes we don't do a recalculate. Sometimes we're thinking the same way now, exactly the same way that we did 10 years ago. I recently had a Talmud who I taught when I was a Rebbe in Torah Traga. One of my Talmidim turned 30. And I asked him, I sent him an email, I said, what are you doing in your life to make sure that on your 40th birthday, you're not exactly the same person you were on your 30th birthday? It's crazy because I work with teens. I work for NCSY. And teens, they're full of growth. They're full of recreating themselves. They're thinking about the big questions. Parents, very often, they outsource their brains to the next generation. They're worried about their kids' chinuch, but they don't ask themselves, well, what do I stand for that I'm giving it over to my kids? God forbid, when you're 30, you should have the same hashkafas that you did the day that you got married and have the same things when you turn 40. No, a person has to constantly be in growth mode, constantly recreate themselves, constantly be thinking, maybe I should do it this way, maybe I should change things that way. A person should always be aware of their avodas Hashem and always be in constant growth mode. Don't just focus on your jobs. Don't just focus on how to make ends meet. And don't just focus on your kids. You first have to focus on yourselves. What do I stand for? What are we all about? Before you can give things over to the next generation. Just wanted to share with you that the Hasidim bring down a custom that at Vihisha Amda, you're supposed to say over family stories about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzileinu miyadam, moments in your personal history or your recent history where HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you or your family a smile. So just for technical reasons, I want to point this out. My Rebbe, Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, was against what I'm about to say. He felt that Seder night, you focus on the Shirish Hashrashim, the root of roots, which is coming out of Egypt, to the exclusion of anything else. But this custom that I'm going to share with you is something you may want to incorporate because I think it's very beautiful. You tell your kids about your family and what you stand about. I happen to have both my father and my mother of blessed memories. Both of them went through extraordinary miracles during the years of fury between 1939 and 1945. And there were specific miracles that I like to share with my kids. This is the perfect time to do so, is by Vihisha Amda. The point is not so much the stories, the point is that your kids should see the family in context of a shalshelas, of a chain that goes through illustrious roots, all the way back to the root of roots, where we came out of Egypt, and ultimately to the Avos and the Imahos. So the first thing that I wanted to share with everyone is the idea is before you get to Seder night, think about what are we all about? What is the message that we want to convey? Don't just sort of tumble into the Seder night having not prepared. If you can prepare a certain amount of hours for cleaning and certain amount of hours for cooking and baking and all these type of things, you certainly need a certain amount of hours for the centerpiece of what's going on. And that is the most powerful message of all to give to your children, that it matters to you to give over a value system of what we're all about. The second point I want to share with you, if you want to see that Chazal, our rabbis, were the ultimate pedagogues. So it goes back to Shlomo Melech. King Solomon said, Chanech lenar al pi darkei. Darkei means you got to watch your child and see that he himself has started a derech, a way, and you have to take that derech and you have to build on it. So you got to pick up on the derech that your child has chosen, and then you have to anchor what he is doing into where you want him to go. That's real chinuch. So therefore, the chinuch is, so to speak, it is natural from the child's own personality and the way he is, and you're helping him as the parent to take him where he wants to go. Just those of you that have teens, so teens are this paradox where on the one hand, they like to make themselves independent from their parents, which is very normal and very natural, and in a sense, very healthy, because it's the way they find their own independence. But on the other hand, kids will never say this to you, but they need you and they want you, and they are looking out to your wisdom and guidance more than ever before, but it's more on a, so to speak, a subconscious level. So don't be afraid, don't be preachy, but don't be afraid to share with your kids that tonight you want to give them over a value system. So the rabbis tell us, Chanech l'na'al pi darkei, keneged arba banim. So you have 4 different stereotypes. These stereotypes obviously come in different colors and different shades, but we are going to try our best to see how the rabbis break our kids down into 4 basic categories. Today, unfortunately, I would like to begin with the Chacham, but today, unfortunately, so many of our kids are the Tam. The Tam is really the 3rd category over here, but the Tam, I think, is more common than ever. Those of you that work in Kiruv and Chinuch, so you work basically with the 3rd category. What does the Tam say? So let's read this together. Mahu Ainet, Mazais, V'amarte Lav, B'chayzik Yad, Haitzi Hashem Mitzrayim Beis Havarim. So Mazais means that the child does not express what's bothering them in any form of intellectual sophistication. Unfortunately, even today, the best kids from the best homes, from the best schools, they're not asking questions that come with chokhmah like the chochm does. They're not asking questions that you see that they've had the ability to think on their own independently for a long time. The idea of telling kids to spend an hour on their own with their thoughts terrifies them. It used to be just a few generations ago that all teens would do that. They would debate, and these things would matter to them. But don't worry, if your child is this Tom, you're in this with the rest of that generation. So the answer is, what do? You tell them the story of coming out of Egypt, which means that for the Tom child, the answer is not intellectual, but rather the answer is the emotions that comes with stories. So here you have to make sure when you teach the Seder night, you stay focused on things that the child can instantly relate to. And whether you have adult children or little children, stories, anecdotes, things that that bring out the storyline is got to be the main focus over here. I have to share with you a little story, and Reb Hill Karish mentioned them at Talmud of Rabbi Shapiro. Rabbi Shapiro was the, again, obviously I'm biased, but he was arguably the most brilliant, intellectual, powerful thinker of the last generation. And he for sure had hundreds and hundreds of Talmidim, of students that he built. Today, I have one friend, Rabbi Ariel Cicero, in Baipagan. I think he has 5,000 shiurim from him, each one different from the other. And that's just one collection. It would take a lifetime to produce those all into Sfarim. And I have a friend, his name is Rabbi Rachmiel Yukelson. He used to be, back in those days, when he was single, Rabbi from Cincinnati, but Rabbi Rachmiel, today is a Rebbe in Torah Simcha. Back then he was single, was invited to the Seder night of Rabbi Moshe Shapiro. Boy, were we jealous. Oh my gosh, we were sitting there, we were so, like this is it, we told him, it's somehow sneak in a tape recorder, I can't, it's Yom Tov, but we were so jealous the moment that we all called him up. What happened? This guy was excited like he had won the lottery. I've got a golden ticket. He could not have been more excited. What happened at Ramesh Shapiro's Seder? So his son Shlomi, who's his youngest child today, he's probably close to being a grandfather, but his son Shlomi was at that point then before his bar mitzvah. He said the Seder did not last long. The whole Seder was focused on his son Shlomi. He completely ignored my friend Rabbi Rachmiel. He just focused on telling the child riveting stories, making it interesting. The child was like, the whole time, his father was describing to him from midrashim and from stories and from events to make the Sipi Yetzias Mitzrayim come out alive. After the Seder was over, and it was not a long Seder, so my Rebbe went to a side room, and they could hear him saying Shir Hashirim, and then afterwards he continued to learn the whole night long. So Ramesh Shapiro spent the rest of the night learning on his own in his room, but that was it. That was for himself after the Seder was over. Interestingly, today, just a few hours ago, one of my NCSYers sent me a WhatsApp and said, I'm going to be with my parents. It's the first time ever I'm going to my parents. I'm not going to an NCSY rabbi. My parents are not religious. My parents are really going to have their first Seder night with someone that's me, myself, I, said my NCSYer, who's religious. What should I do? And I told him, I said, this is a reversal of roles. You are now the parent. Your parents are now the child. It's a reversal of the V'higadah Levincha. You have a chance to educate your parents. And therefore, I advise them, like what I saw my Rebbe did to his son, be light, be quick, don't be preachy, and choose interesting stories, interesting anecdotes that you think your parents will enjoy. So prepare it like we will prepare our Seder night. Prepare it thinking what will fascinate mom and dad. And then I told him the following. When the Seder night is over, so then take one book that you have. Today we live in there's no end. NCSY and the OU themselves have a whole bunch of publications, perfect for teens. Take a book that you have not yet read, and at your own leisure, until your eyes force you to fall asleep, read for yourself so that you can give over to yourself, like we said earlier on, and build yourself on this night, Seder night. So this is all what's called the Seder night of the Tam. Then afterwards, we have the Seder of the Chacham. So we should all be zocher to children who are critical thinkers. The Chacham, when he asks his question, he says, Ma'edus, Chukim, Mishpatim, Asher Tziva Hashem Elokeinu, Eschem. So he says, Hashem Elokeinu. So that's why we know that this person over here is completely and totally, he's with the program. Our God, he gave us these different categories of Edus and Chukim and Mishpatim. And then he says, Va'af ata aimilov ki hilchis Pesach ein maftirim acha Pesach afikaim, which means teach him all the halachos until the last Mishnah in Psachim, which is the Mishnah of the Afikaim. In other words, the intellectual child is ready for an intellectual answer. So here you can go in and you can teach him more the mechanics, more the philosophy. Again, you have to be aware if you have different types at your table. In the sense, the Tom needs more attention. Certainly the Rasha, certainly the She'eni Yedei Lishol. In the sense, the Chacham needs the least attention. But let's say you have a home which is Chachamim, you have a bunch of yeshiva bachrim, girls straight out of seminary, their brains are on fire, so you can give them already deeper ideas that you have worked on. The Rasha. So I want to talk a little bit about the Rasha, if I may. Who is the Rasha today? My Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Wolbe, Tzaddik Zechron Livracha, said many times, there's no such thing as an apikeris in our generation. Today, the Rasha doesn't really exist. You don't have the old-time Rasha. A few days ago, when Benjamin Netanyahu, when Bibi was interviewed by a correspondent, I assume, well, I'll just tell you the story and you can do the labeling yourself. She says, she asked him a question and he answers, Be'ezrat Hashem, God willing, we're going to work this thing through. And she interrupted him and said, not Be'ezrat Hashem, Be'ezras, the Weizmann Institute, which you know is Israel's version, Harvard, of Yale, of MIT. So the Weizmann Institute will find a solution. And Bibi, without missing a bat, without missing an eye, he just went straight and says, no. Even today, in the Weizmann Institute, they realize that we need Hashem's help over here. And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is extraordinary to be able to hear this. What I want to share with you is that girl, Miss Weizmann Institute will solve the world problems, represents this old school of what's called the Rasha that she thinks that science is going to solve this problem, that everything's going to work itself out, and you don't have to bring Hashem into the equation. Know that she's not a Rasha. Know that she's a beautiful neshama. Know that she is, Mashiach's coming for her just like she's coming for me and for you. And it's just really important to remember this, that all these, what they call here in Israel, Smolanim, they are beautiful Jews, and you're obligated to love them, and you're obligated to treat them the same way that you would treat someone that has the same mindset as yourself. These people are good people. They're misguided, so that's what we say. The Maral says, let them change the way they think. So on Seder night, the Rasha, if they are at your table, is coming to you with cynical attitudes. He's giving you attitude. He does not buy into this whole thing. He or she believes that the Weizmann Institute will solve the world's problem. So what does the Baal HaGada say? Af ata hake eshinov, which means smash his teeth. So the Hasidim say, if you look at the word Rasha is Reish Shin Ayin. The middle letter is a Shin. Af ata hake eshinov, break the Shin. Break the Shin, take it away, and then what you're left with is the word Ra. In other words, don't label this person as a Rasha, but rather the way they think is Ra. Show them that their thinking is Ra. I just want to say this again. I know I'm sounding a little Hasidic now, but I honestly believe this in practice. The letter Shin is the same word as Shin. It's a tooth, right? Haka Hashem means break his tooth. So if you take out the tooth symbolizes in Jewish symbolism what's called taiva for food. The cow will eat your field, and the owner of the cow has to pay for it. That's called hanas shein, the benefit of the tooth. Yesh hana lahaziko. You hurt through getting pleasure. So what the Russia today in 2020, what they all have in common, is that they are all not real Rishon. They have taiva. They want to enjoy the good life, and the halachic life seems to be so very restrictive. Of course, it's not. It just comes across as being so very restrictive. You got to show them that it's not that way. You got to show them the beauty of our lives. Well, guess what? This year it's easier than ever, because they're looking for hana. They're looking for pleasure. Today, all that part of this planet that symbolizes hana shein, it's gone. The restaurants are empty. The party places, the clubhouses, the beaches, right? This is it. They close spring break. Everything that upset Hashem is now disappearing. For those of you that had a chance to listen to my class on 100 brachos, it's on Torah anytime. So just worth it to listen to the last 10, 15 minutes where I bring Reb Tzadok HaKohen, where he describes a plague as Hashem's air freshener. He says the world is filled with znus and all kinds of lowliness and all kinds of depravity and all kinds of decadence. And then what happens is he says that the magefa is an air freshener. Well, you see today, everyone is inside their homes. Hashem is spiritually air freshening the streets. And then he says the keteris, which is the magical incense of the Kohen Gadol, that in turn cleanses out the stench of the magefa. It's an extraordinary little piece. The bottom line is, this year more than any other year, people are aware that taiva, it's not working. That whole system that they want to go back to, it's not there for them. So therefore, they can go and they can think in terms of like a bigger world, and you can sort of plant the seeds into their heads, that there's something bigger out there. There's something of greater value out there. Life cannot be just about making money so that you can party, and then you party so that you can have your great escape so you can go back and work once again. That's not what life is. There's greater values. Yetzias Mitzrayim is the foundation of everything, and this is what you give over on Seder night to the Rasha. Finally, She'eni Yedei Lishol. She'eni Yedei Lishol, today, who are the people that cannot ask? At Pesach, the word at is feminine, symbolizing the warmth of the mama, right? There are certain people that don't even express themselves at all. They're not even the Tom. And there, you need to love them into Yiddishkeit. You need to bring them to the power of the warmth and just the whole beauty of your Seder night table and the family unit, that they feel this is my place. So the She'eda does apasachla shenem v'gadol bincha b'yamahu v'avuz Hashem li b'tzeitzi Mitzrayim. You just make them feel good about what it means. It's good to sein a Yid. It's good to be Jewish. Now, I mentioned I want to make 4 points, so I still have 2 more to go. Let's talk a little about the third idea of Chinuch that comes out so strongly on Seder night. You must make the evening exciting. In other words, it cannot be a boring evening. I feel bad for those parents who are naturally quiet and introverted. There's nothing you can do about it. You've got to find that little spark inside of you. Ask Hashem beforehand. Say a little tefillah to Hashem at the end of your Shemona Esrei on Leil Pesach, when you just say, Hashem, help me make the Seder the most beautiful thing ever. Just by the way, I wasn't saying that just casually. Daven to Hashem that this Seder night should be unique and special. Daven to Hashem, it should be exciting. Daven to Hashem that not just your neshama, but neshama of your kids should be irrevocably changed this Wednesday night. It has to come with tefillah, because we all need a lot of siyata d'shmaya for this thing to fall into place. So the Sfarim bring down, some of you may be aware, Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, he writes about this in great length, about the what is embedded into Seder night to try and make it exciting. For example, things called that the child should be makir, right? What's called hakeres. We do all kinds of strange movements throughout Seder night that creates what's called wonder in the child. There's four, again, it's the number four that are mentioned in the Talmud: Siluk HaShulchan, removing the shulchan, the two dippings, the second pouring of the cup, and the afikamen, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. That needs its own class. What do those four hakeres means? But it creates a atmosphere where the child is curious and wants to ask questions. So now I want to share with you a very, very important idea. My father was a great educator, and when I was growing up, he never said to me when I came home this annoying question, so what did you learn in school today? Well, how was your day? He used to ask, did you ask a good question in school today? He didn't care about whether I got answers. He insisted that I was always curious, that I was always questioning. Did you ask a good question today? That's what you should ask your child. Now, stop and think about that. On Seder night, you want to awaken the child to take what the child already has a step further. It has to come that they are asking the questions. When a child asks a question, then they own the answer. Besides the obvious pedagogical plus that it makes it much more exciting and more interesting. Anyone that ever did a Q&A, which I love doing, just answering questions, it's a much more of an exciting dynamic than when you're just teaching in one direction. It's going back and forth. So you always have to say, so what do you think? And then you go, Rachel, what do you think? And Chaim, what do you think? And you just keep going around and so what do you think? And you get the child to come up and do you find anything strange about this verse? Does anyone see a question over here? So you get them involved and you try and make the evening as exciting as possible. This is one of the crucial ideas of what is the rabbis put and built into the system of how the evening works. Last but not least, and this is maybe the hardest and the most esoteric of the ideas I'm giving over tonight. The first thing we said, ask yourself what you stand for. The second is look at your children and make the evening fit each child based on where they are. The third thing is to ask yourself how to make things exciting. By the way, before I get to the fourth one, I just want to shout out for my good friend, Rabbi John Green. He has a website, I think it's called pesachshtick.com. It has all kinds of ways to make the evening more exciting. I guess I'm embarrassed to tell you, but not really. I put on a puppet show together with my older kids for the grandchildren this year. Unfortunately, it's without grandkids this year. But the idea is that we do a puppet show to make it fun for the kids. And Rabbi John Green has a little piece of shtick with all kinds of fun posters and things that you can do, just literally to shtick up the evening. If that's your cup of tea, you can check it out. He has this thing online, pesachshtick.com. What I wanted to share with you is that, again, let's go over the three things. Number one, make sure that you know what you want to give over from your family's viewpoint, your hashkafa. Number two, that you give over each child to what they need. And the third thing is to make it exciting. What's the fourth one? The fourth one is to make it real. And here it's kind of the hardest and the most fundamental and the most basic. That is, the most. My daughter-in-law has just wrote a chat note that she's going to miss not being with us for Seder night. That's why I'm laughing. The fourth one is to make it real. How do you make it real? So it's really in the pasuk itself. Lirois ula haris, the Girstaram is atmikilu hu yatsu Mitzrayim. You got to make it out, kilu, that we are experiencing that night the coming out of Egypt. Those of you who, again, have access to, you can go to the, either NCSY has /staff. I gave a class called Sweetest Mar. It's also on Torah Anytime, where I speak about the idea of the evening going from negative to positive, but how at the end we answer in an experiential way all the great questions to Jewish suffering and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world. It is apparently possible, together with the Ruach HaKodesh that night is supposed to give us, it is apparently possible to reach that moment of clarity for one night in the Jewish calendar, where literally every question you've ever had against Hashem, how he runs his world, everything falls into place. Everything comes out with total clarity. Of course, the next morning you forget it. That's why we have Sfiras HaOmer, to re-earn it through our own hard work. But that night, you have to try and make it real. That's why the rabbis gave us these props called matzah and Pesach in the times of the Korban Pesach and Mara, plus all the other mini props that we have, the charesis and the karpas. All these things are there to make it real. Revolva Zatzal in the Sefer Ali Shah brings down, my Rebbe, the Achshav Kevanim Akin. He said you should scream out the word Va'achshav. It's happening now. It's happening right here in our Seder night. What it means is, somehow or other, you have to ask Hashem to help you Seder night, that with all the action that's going on, that the children who are listening to you, they're not just excited about it. They're not just feeling that you're talking to them in an unjudgmental way. They're not just feeling that they're so excited to be at home that stands for something, but they find that what you're giving over on Seder night is relevant to their own lives in a very real way. It has become them. You are planting seeds, just like you put food in your mouth. You're putting emunah into their mouths. Everything that a Jew stands for goes back to Seder night. This is the thesis of the Sefer Kuzari that talks about the Tzias Mitzrayim. It's the Ikrim of the Ikrim. It is the Rambam throughout Chumash reminds us that this is the foundations of all foundations. Klal Yisrael was born as a nation. Klal Yisrael came out, and we got the Torah, and we should have gone to Eretz Yisrael and brought the world to its final reckoning. Instead, there's a 2,000-year process that will end with the coming of Mashiach. And we are here to live these extraordinary times. Thank you, Hashem, that we're living in this world where the real evil is behind us. The real evil, says Rabbi Aaron Bells, was the Holocaust. The frightening part of Mashiach coming is behind us. Now we have to get through this last hump. And this is the chance for us to hold on to our emunah. Rabbi Menachem from Lejeune says, the last great test before Mashiach comes is the test of emunah. Hashem's going to put a long string across the universe, and he's going to ask us to hold on. And he's going to shake it up and down, and we've got to hold on. And that string is called emunah. Ramona used to say that the last test before Mashiach comes is all the individual, the pain of the individual, the challenges of the individual. My sister says, in the name of the vision, the Imre Chaim, Hakol Yiyeh Beseder. Everything's going to work out fine. It's a pun on the word Beseder. The Arizal, as we mentioned, says every second of Seder night is precious beyond belief. My dear friends, I'm begging you, don't just prepare your home. Don't just prepare the food. Prepare that evening how you're going to give it over to your children. Be part of the great solution of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring over the final chapter of Olam Hazeh. Be part of the solution by being part of, so to speak, his soldiers that are going out and making sure that his children, which is the next generation, are taken care for and are nurtured spiritually on every single level. All I can do is say, here I am in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. And Yerushalayim, the holy city, gives me the right to give every single one of you a bracha. Number one, daven hard to Hashem for siyata d'shamayim. Number two, prepare what you stand for, prepare how you're going to give it over to each child, prepare how you're going to make it exciting and how you're going to make it real. And thirdly and finally, while you are going through Seder night, experience a personal chayris, a personal freedom with you and your beautiful, beautiful family. Hashem gave you the perfect spouse, the perfect children, and the perfect home for this year. Everything is fallen into place. As Hashem, your little perfect home, and my little perfect home, and little perfect homes throughout the world, in every single corner of the world, we sit here huddled in our own home, while outside the Magefa is finally cleansing the world of all the Tum and Tahara. We should be zeicha afterwards to go straight from there to greet the Melech HaMashiach, and we can be able to bring the Min HaPsachim or Min HaZvachim, to be able to bring the Karbonos the way it's supposed to, in pure, unadulterated joy and laughter. Thank you so much for listening. Hatzlacha and a kosher Pesach.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Nissel. We're very appreciative. Chag kosher v'sameach.
Amen. Excuse me.